So, seen any good moves lately? Welcome back to the third episode of our Survivor 50 coverage of, well, Survivor 50. I am Joey Overding, I'm your host, and today I am joined by, I might say, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Mitchell. I don't know if you consider yourself a Riz God, Mitchell, but you're a Riz disciple to be sure. Um,
I appreciate that.
how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been loving Survivor 50 so far. It's been. I feel like it's something that I haven't really enjoyed a season like a U.S. Survivor season as much as like Survivor 47 up until now. That was for me
Yeah.
the peak of the new era, and this is I think already eclipsed that.
I would agree with that. I definitely feel like, I'm a person who I enjoy myself a returnee season for sure. Like I like all of them, comma, except All Stars, but like I'm a fan of like Game Changers. I'm a fan of Karamoan. So this has just been such a nice like sigh of relief almost. Just to have people I already know. Like, yeah, I know who Colby is. I don't need 5 episodes to figure out what his deal is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's really gratifying in that sense, and the inter conflicts, the character arcs, the multi-season character arcs have been so fun already. The whole Aussie coach stuff, oh my goodness.
I love that. I love it
in
so much.
in one episode we made South Pacific a better season than it already was.
Yes.
Like, it's awesome. Like, this is the power of a returnee season. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. um and here we are. It's the third episode, and we get a tribe swap. But before we get into that, Mitchell, I have to ask you about the last episode, where we did in fact see Savannah go home. What were your thoughts on that episode?
I thought it was good. It wasn't as good as the premiere, but to be
Yeah.
fair, the premiere was a special 3 hours of my life, and
Yes.
so
Yes.
I think it really set. I think it set up a lot of stuff for the future. I really feel
Yeah.
like Survivor has um a lot of little things that it likes to do when it comes to dividing its season into smaller parts. Like, I
Yeah.
think Juan actually from 49 put it really well. How basically Survivor itself is different, like has different acts. Like, even
Mhm.
though technically like I feel like episodes 1 and 2 obviously like are like the first act in terms of like the pre-swap.
Sure.
Just because I think it puts Sela, like old Sela, in a very interesting place. You kind of know theoretically what could happen next, but you're not confident. And then obviously like, what they want to do with the tribe swap later is obviously going to change that. I unfortunately didn't have much hope for Savannah, mostly because
Yeah.
returning winner, if you look at how Kyle was on one tribe and D was on the other, odds are Savannah won.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they figured that out pretty easily too. Because as I love to point out, maybe one of my favorite moments of the season, but I'll go through it once again, is when Savannah revealed her win and was like, "You guys have any guesses on how I did?" And then just complete silence, and then she's like, "I won." And then everyone like starts going yay and like golf clapping. It's just hilarious.
I know.
Um, I think I can't prove it, but I think that one interaction sealed her fate in the game. Like, I don't care how crazy Drew's gonna be in this next episode. That's enough to say, all right, you're out of here.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like there are those just random
Yeah.
moments in like Survivor that just stick with me.
Yeah. I feel like that one's gonna be one for me for sure for a very long time.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, no, I agree. I don't think Savannah really had too much of a shot. Which I mean, like, I'm not really shocked by it at all. As you aren't either. But I enjoyed her time on the show when it was almost nice to see her stripped away from being, this dominating force who felt like she was always in control, even if she was technically on the bottom in 49.
Right.
Um, to being just like helpless and kind of not knowing what to do. In a sense. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting change in perspective in that sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, but getting into this episode proper, before we can talk about the tribe swap and the new dynamics and what's gone on this episode, we have to talk about the very start, where the aftermath of the great Christian stunt fall, pratfall, I should say, and planning the fake idol at tribal council. Um, it becomes all right. Well, there's probably a swap coming up. We gotta tell people, but they don't get to Emily, and so Christian then goes on the mat at the tribe swap during Jeff's rapping, which we can get to in a second,
Oh
and
boy.
and and whispers to Emily, "Hey, by the way, Aubrey has an idol." I was a little surprised by this. I was kind of surprised by this whole thing. I kind of don't get why, if Christian was so confident there was going to be a swap and he was right about it, he just didn't pull Emily over and be like, "Hey, I have to talk to you." I don't think that's the craziest thing to do on Survivor. I don't know.
I mean, if what I'm understanding is true, according
Mhm.
to what was said in the confessional,
Yeah,
it didn't seem like they were able to actually get Emily by herself. And we don't know how much time between tree mail and they got on the boats that really was. Because
sure.
sometimes it's like, grab your things, you got to leave in 10 minutes. Like, it's very possible they didn't actually have time. They could have. And if so, I definitely think that's on Christian for not ensuring and getting Emily in a place where
Without work.
she was
Yeah.
not with Joe or Ozzy.
Hmm.
I think that would have helped, probably just helped with Emily's concern.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little surprised in the sense of Emily just immediately being like, why would Christian tell me this information so late? From my perspective, it's like, hey, at least he's telling you information at all. He could have not done that. But regardless, I mean, Emily had a crazy episode. We will
Yeah.
talk about it in full, I'm sure. But something we have to talk about in full
Oh
first is,
boy.
of course, look, sometimes you got to know your own limits. And I'm saying, Jeff Probst, you're a great host. You know how to do a lot of things. Rapping is not one of them.
I'm honestly, I think Chris Noble might have did it better.
I think he did. The thing is, Chris Noble, you can talk trash on Chris Noble all you want. Chris Noble had je ne sais quoi that Jeff Probst doesn't have. I don't know how to put it. Jeff Probst is just, when Chris Noble, I think he earnestly believes that he's a good rapper. When Jeff does it, I think he's like, this will be good for the episode.
Yep,
This will get
exactly.
this will be something people will talk about online. And look, I have to tell you my personal experience with Jeff rapping because it made me really sad. But beyond that, before I watched the episode, which I was watching live, I was watching Entertainment Tonight, and they did a preview of Jeff rapping before the episode. So I knew it was coming. I knew Jeff was rapping, and I heard some of it, and I was literally like, I'm not mentally prepared to hear this right now. I have to go to the other room. I can't do it. And then when it came on in full and Jeff started rapping, I was like, I still can't do it. I still can't do this. So I walked away again. But you know what's amazing, Mitchell? At the end of the day, even though he rapped, it was still a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I agree,
Yeah,
100%. It's like it was like the chicken and waffles thing all over again.
yeah, yeah. I rewatched that episode of 48 recently because I was, sometimes when like there are episodes I don't like, I'm like, all right, let me rewatch this and see if it's really as bad as I remember. Like I rewatched the Banu stuff in 46, and in retrospect, very funny.
Yeah.
Like at the time we were all like, oh my god, I hate this Banu guy. In retrospect, pretty good television.
Yeah.
Um, Chicken and waffles is not like that. I couldn't get through it. I had to be like, just skip forward. I can't do this. And poor Camilla having to go through both the chicken and waffles and the Jeff rapping.
I mean,
Um,
Joe is Joe too, technically.
yeah, but Joe, I think Joe has too much whimsy in his heart to
Yeah,
really care.
yeah,
Camilla,
that's true.
Camilla, you just know is dying on the inside for both.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. And the fact that he must have come up with it like so far in advance because he's like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna pick up the pen and write something fierce, and then I'm gonna make them drop their buffs. It's gonna be the most epic mic drop of all time. I'm sure is something he said to himself. Um, but there was a tribe swap that happened because of this. So let's start getting into some of these dynamics, some of these new contestants. And we're going to kind of start with the tribes that, didn't get as much screen time, comma, not the new Batu. And that means that, we can see the dynamics for our viewers on the screen. And we sort of went over these last week in the sense of like, we previewed it because everyone knew kind of where the swap was going if you were in the know. But regardless, I think it was pretty interesting. The big stunner was obviously the David versus Goliath three all being next to each other.
Yeah.
Um, it's just crazy how that works. I feel like Survivor always has a way to make the swaps interesting. I guess that's kind of the nature of the swap, but I mean, like, how perfect is it that Angelina Christian and Mike White all end up back on a tribe together? You know?
I know. Well, and Jeff just says Mike White literally every time now, which is just extremely fun. He just like Christian Hubicki, Mike White, Angeline.
I gotta wonder, in my opinion, like if I were on the beach and I was like, let's say I was Rizzo or whatever, and I was looking around and Jeff was just calling Christian Hubicki over and over and over again, I'd be like, oh my god, what did I do wrong? Why is he getting this treatment? Because
Yeah, why can't it call me Rizgod again?
yeah, exactly, exactly. What's wrong with Mike? I have a cool nickname built in already. Call me by that. You know. Um, Anyway, so very interesting swap in that regard. And let's start getting into some of these contestants, starting with the old Sela tribe. And let's start with Rick Devens, who had a very interesting episode last episode, but this episode was definitely way more quiet for him. Uh,
Yeah.
what do we think about Rick Devens so far?
I'm loving Rick Devens. I think, for me at least, episode 2 was such. It was just like, we hear you. We know this is frustrating.
I
Like,
know.
I'm like, honor and integrity. I'm like, yes, yes, Rick. Come on, keep preaching to the choir. We
Mhm,
love it.
mhm. I do love that there are kind of two sides this season. There's kind of the smaller side of honor and integrity, and then there's everyone else who's like, oh my god, it's just like what are we doing? We're here on Survivor, and I feel like Rick is the epitome of that. He's just like, I'm here to play the game and to go crazy and to play fake idols, and you want me to just be honest all the time. Like Survivor's fun. Well, we're trying to be fun. So I appreciate Rick a lot in that sense. I think it'll be interesting to see him in this new tribe in the sense of he's technically in the minority now.
I'm not
But
worried about him right now, though, personally.
yeah, I'm not worried about him either. And I think it's interesting that he and Sari are the only two from his tribe, from the original Sela tribe, on there together. Because you wouldn't really pen them as being like a tight connection, but apparently they are.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that really help. Honestly, I think like Rick's reputation on his
Mhm.
season um kind of helped with, I think, also just connecting with Suri, because Suri is obviously a big threat. That
Yeah,
was it's very true from the outset. However, especially um given the episode 1 and being targeted,
yeah.
but with the fact that like Suri has a good ally, and like she knows that Rick is going to at some point, especially after episode 2, take some heat, and I think that
Mhm.
that's only going to help her.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. Suri's obviously, it feels like she's always gonna find, like, she's like a cat. She always lands on her feet, right?
Yeah.
Um, Rick Devens, I feel like, especially going into the season, I did not pen him as a cat at all. I penned him as a clumsy dog. In comparison, I thought that Rick was going to come out the gate, do kind of the same thing that he did during Edge of Extinction, and everyone was going to be like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And then just vote him out. But I've been really surprised. I think I was underrating his game because essentially he's already played twice, right? Because he came
Yeah.
back from the Edge. This is basically his third time, so he knows what he's doing. And he also knows how to be good television, which I definitely appreciate that.
100%. Like, all of his confessionals are really good. I do worry. I do think he's in a good position, but I do worry that maybe people catch on to that. And that might be why he's targeted.
I could definitely see him being targeted for being a threat. I don't see, I mean, especially now that we've had a swap, I don't see him being targeted for being a liability or even
100%.
necessarily being on the wrong side of the numbers. It's going to be Rick Devens finds idols, people like him. He's Rick Devens, and I could see that being the undoing. But I feel like I would be a little surprised if that happens at this point. I feel like the Christian Rick Devens dynamic has more to be shown in the future. I feel like it would be a bit weird to hype it up so much and then just kind of kill it dead. But stranger things have happened, I guess. Yeah.
I
All right.
agree. I agree with that. I think that there's more to be shown.
All right. Well, let's move on to the other side of this original Sela pair, who is in fact Suri, who, despite us talking about her so early, I mean, she had a very good episode again this time around, where I mean, she's so good at confessionals. I mean, she's being targeted by Dee and Jonathan, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel like it.
Uh
You
huh.
know, when it comes to Suri, it's like I'll believe it when I see it.
Same. And I can't even see. So like there's that also.
Yeah.
But like but like the thing about it is like yes, Dee and Jonathan are targeting Suri. But the question is like what will they be able to what will they be able to do? They might be able to marshal the troops.
Yeah.
But like and I think like Camilla probably honestly, yeah, I don't know like how like other people exactly are going to really react to Suri because we really didn't have enough time with I believe it was yeah the new Sela tribe. I or was it the Sela or was it Kalo? Are they on Kalo now?
I believe they are still on Sela because
Okay.
Suri was like, "Welcome into our
Oh
home."
yeah, you're right.
And
Okay. And I think yeah, especially them being there, I think there's pushing a lot in very specific directions, but that don't involve Suri, surprisingly.
yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, from my perspective, it's like I think on paper you could be like, "Yeah, Suri's a good person to get rid of," but that's also how it always is. And from my perspective as well, like if there was any time in the history of Survivor to get rid of Suri, it would have been after episode 1 when connections have not been formed. She cost you the challenge. There's somebody who's really pushing to get Suri out. I mean, if she's not going to go home then, like, when is she ever going to go home? You know what I mean? Like, it felt like it was either then or it's going to be at fire making. That's when
Right.
she goes home this season. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our next person, who is going to be Jonathan, aforementioned Jonathan. Man, Jonathan's weird because he's also somebody like Suri that if he gets targeted, it's a real I believe it when I see it moment for me, but for a completely different reason. I
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Weirdly, he's so good at like actually he's extremely good at minimizing his threat level when realistically that should be difficult for him given his
Yeah.
size.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this is a really underrated aspect of Jonathan's game. I felt like, especially going into this season, I was really undervaluing him. I was just like, yeah, this is a guy who can jump over a boulder. That's kind of all everything I thought about him. But in retrospect, it's like, hey, this guy did make it to the final four of 42. It's not like he was a bad player then and, is just kind of like someone taken out as soon as the merge hits.
Right.
even back then, he was able to minimize his threat level very well, especially for someone as huge and gigantic as he is. Um, and frankly, if I'm thinking about it, he's probably the best of his archetype in Survivor history of insanely buff guy who carries his tribe through challenges. Jonathan in 42 was probably the best iteration of that we've ever seen because I don't know if someone that buff has ever actually won Survivor or that challenge oriented. Um, Especially from the
Right.
get go, where people are like Charlie are like, this guy's basically three people on challenges, and he's right. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm actually way higher on Jonathan than I thought I would be, especially because he keeps saying, "Yeah, I talked to Boston Rob, so I'm a better player now." I believe that. I believe that Boston Rob would make you a better player if he said, "Shut up" or whatever. I can't do a Boston Rob voice, but
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, and it's so interesting because I think he is a lot more. I think he's a lot more calm, but I do
yeah,
think he was a lot calmer at the beginning of 42 than at the end,
yeah, that's true.
and I think that that's going to be the issue for him is when it gets to the end. What I think is what has been shown is like bigger guys, I think, tend to struggle as time goes on because obviously they usually eat more, but
Yeah,
because they're splitting between like theoretically evenly, that's not technically going to be the case.
yeah, yeah,
And so I think that that could make like his game a bit more difficult to like put a pin in at the end. I
Mhm.
don't think he's going home anytime soon. I feel
No,
like
me
he's the
neither.
safest person here.
Yeah, I think everyone. I think can kind of agree that if there's somebody who's going to be safe purely because of their challenge prowess, it's going to be him. But also, if there's someone who's going to be taken out at merge because of their challenge prowess, it's going to be him.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
100%.
we kind of know what we're dealing with here. Um, I'll say this in Jonathan's defense too, in the sense of I think he can go further than maybe most people think. Is like surprisingly enough, he has a shield in the game of a guy who is very physical, very strong, who is more dramatic than he is, and
Yeah,
his name is Joe.
100%.
So I think that if nothing else, Jonathan didn't have a shield like that in 42, and he has that here in 50. Plus, everybody else has their own version of threat levels. Like if it's between Jonathan and Sari at final 10, who would you rather get rid of? There's an argument for either. I
Right.
mean, you'd probably say Jonathan, but I mean, it could go either way theoretically. It's hard to say. So,
Agreed.
yeah, I like Jonathan for sure. All right, well, let's move on to our next contestant. Also from the original Caller Tribe. I don't even remember. And that is D, our final winner left in the game already. What do you think about D so far?
Um, I well, okay. I might be reading into the edit too much, but like I know D's like barely had any confessionals until this episode. But
Yeah,
that was also Genevieve, like on
yeah,
40.
sure.
I remember like who the heck is Genevieve? And then episode 4 happened. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
For the first three episodes, I literally pronounced Genevieve's name wrong. I think I pronounced it Genevieve or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know. Genevieve, who's to say?
Yeah. But like,
Yeah,
yeah. D, I think D is doing a lot better than I thought she would. More specifically because I think she has avoided tribal.
hmm
And I think that help. I think she benefits a lot from insulating herself.
yes, for sure, for sure. And I think that's something Dee is always been really great at too, is insulating herself. I mean, that was basically her whole game in 45 to an extent. There was a lot to her game. But one of the things she was really good at is she was insulating herself so well that no one ever really wanted to target her because they were like, well, we can't do it. So
Right.
I think that, look, I was pretty high on D going into this season because I knew that she's a winner, but I have enough confidence in her that I'm like, if she plays the exact same game she did in 45, she will at least make it to the merge. Like she's kind of got that component where she has this innate likability to her. Like even just thinking about the start of the season, like even though she's a winner, she immediately linked up with Camilla and Tiffany, and they were like, "This is the three. Like I want to work with you guys so bad." I think Dee's a really really good player. I think she's the best winner of the new era, and I think she's proving it by not really having too much of a threat level on her.
Agreed.
Chrissy was vaguely like, "We got to get Dee out of here to coach," but like that was I think episode 1, and we have heard
Yeah.
nothing since. To be fair, she hasn't been to tribal council, but that's just my perspective, anyways.
No, I think that's fair. I think especially it's going to be interesting when they theoretically have larger, like when they have larger try. Actually, okay, real quick regarding D, I think
Sure.
honestly the large tribes of this season are helping a lot of people that would be picked off immediately in like tribes of six. I
Oh,
think.
for sure. For sure. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that that is something that just makes sense, but it also makes it interesting of like, all right, when these people finally go to tribal council, you know, will that mean that they're easier to pick off because they're not in game mode, like say a Christian or whatever? Because we see this time and time in Survivor history. The people who go to the who survive the most tribals in the pre-merge tend to go pretty far in the merge too. So I don't know, but I think a player like D, it's like I think that she's always locked in. Now you could have questions about someone like I don't know, Coach. I think that's
Uh
more than
huh.
fair, but I think the question about D isn't necessarily is she locked in or will she get or will she be locked in come merge. I think it's more like will she get picked off just because she's a winner and she would be an easy vote to get people on board with, which I think is far more likely to happen,
I agree.
unfortunately. But yes, I'm a fan. I think D should make the merge, at least, and I'd like her to go further. But with how the season's gone so far, it's been pretty rough for winners. So we'll see. Um,
Yeah.
all right, let's move on to our next person, who also from the same original tribe is Camilla, who once again didn't really do that much this episode. We haven't seen a ton of her so far, but what do you think about Camilla so far?
Um, I'm optimistic.
Yeah,
I'm better than I thought I was going to be at the beginning of this season. I was concerned that it was going to be sort of like Aubrey and Game Changers.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Aubrey and Game Changers or Edge of Extinction?
No, Game Changers. More specifically in terms of being able to get like a strategic foothold in.
Oh, sure. Yes, yes. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I got you. Okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, I totally see
not
that.
placement, just like Aubrey was never able to because they didn't want because they were scared of her and thought she was a threat, so they didn't want her to get a foothold. Where I think Camilla has the ability, and especially in this tribe,
Hmm.
given the Kala majority, but there's also like other things that could happen to make. I still think she has D. She doesn't
Yes,
have Tiffany, but I think she has like a built-in ally.
yes. I think Camilla also benefits, unfortunately, from Kyle's medevac because I
Yeah.
mean, we saw how the target kind of shifted to Angelina this episode, mostly because of her connections, though some other stuff too, but very much partially because of her connections that people knew she had. Camilla doesn't have that anymore. She's basically a free agent in the sense of she could go anywhere, and people and I said this the first 2 episodes, but I'll say it again because I think it's important to say is she is a dual threat in the sense of people know she's a really loyal ally, see Kyle, but they also know that she's super strategic, see Kyle. So I mean, like I think she's the best of both worlds, and is definitely someone that if I were on the beach with, I would be like, yeah, I would love to have her as an ally. Plus, I could beat her in fire making. So I mean, it's great.
Yeah. 100%. I think I mean obvious I think there's going to be I feel like a lot of people, well maybe not except Rizzo and well Savannah isn't there anymore, but like I feel
Yeah,
like every other person probably theoretically practiced fire making.
yeah,
And so I feel like Camilla specifically probably would have practiced because I don't think she would have wanted to go out in the same way.
Yeah, yeah. I was just saying, kind of as a joke. I mean, I don't really know.
No, no, I think it's fair. I think it's fair.
Yeah,
But
but it's like there are some people in this season where I would feel pretty confident against, and some people I would not feel confident against. I would not feel confident against Joe the Fireman, but I would feel
mhm.
confident against Suri because Suri has
Yeah.
struggled making fire in the past. So you know, it's things like that. Know your enemy, et cetera, et cetera. But either way, I think Camilla's in a good spot. I think Camilla's biggest hurdle is making it to the merge, but as long as she can, I think she'll be good. I think if luckily she's not on a tribe that's like this, but if coach or whoever all of a sudden says, "Hey, we need to focus on challenge strength exclusively," I think people could assume that Camilla's weaker than she actually is because she's really good in puzzles and she
Yeah.
basically carried her tribe to victory this time around. But I don't know. I don't know really what that would manifest itself as, but I think Camilla should be good regardless.
I agree.
All right. Well, let's move on to our next person. Again, on the same tribe, who will be the one, the only Rizgod, comma baby, the only person from the original Batu tribe. What do we think about Rizzo so far?
So honestly, the I feel like Rizzo and Charlie right now are kind of a package deal.
Yes,
Weirdly
Charlie
enough.
is the next person on here, so we can talk about him too, happily.
Yeah. So the thing that I love
Yeah.
is the fact that Charlie's mad at Rizzo because Rizzo lied about who his number one was.
Yes. Yes. And I have here a picture of Charlie staring blankly during Rizzo's conversation, where he says at during the night phase, you know, night phase, God, blood in the clock tower.
Yeah, I know.
During the during the night phase that yeah, he voted for Savannah to win, and he's just staring so blankly into the sky. Uh
Yeah.
I love it. Here's what I'll say about this. This isn't Rizzo related, but it is Charlie related. This whole interaction, everything about it, I adore to
I
such an
agree.
extent that I think by itself it has justified putting Charlie on this season.
Yeah.
Like I he's been good so far. Don't get me wrong. I'm not talking trash on Charlie or anything, but I mean like when you look at Charlie, you're not like, okay, he's gonna bring the drama. He's gonna be petty. You're like Charlie's like the audience stand-in. He's just like a pretty normal guy who likes Taylor Swift,
Yep.
who is here playing Survivor. You're not like, whoa, this guy's gonna be petty as heck. But here he is.
40
I
doing 46 proud, I say.
I just loved it because you know Rizzo justifiably is like, I'm screwed if I don't make connections, so I'm gonna go to Charlie. And Rizzo gives him good information about how the idols work, and Charlie's like, that's so useful, Rizzo. Yeah, we're good. And then Charlie's like, I will never trust Rizzo, and here's why.
And list off three different reasons which involve voting for not for your number one ally.
Which involve my own personal traumas.
Yes.
But at the same time, I mean, like, can you really blame Charlie? I don't think it's well, actually, you can. I'm gonna blame Charlie. I was
Yeah.
gonna try to justify his own trauma, but I don't think I can. Um,
Same.
Look, I think Charlie is too. Look, okay. Here's my thought. I have my thoughts together. I'm gonna say them. It's been what 2 3 years since 46 at this point, right?
Uh huh.
Charlie has been hearing for 2 or 3 years that he should have won Survivor 46. And that's going to get in someone's head regardless. I mean, I'm sure it applies to so many of these contestants who are on the season who are runner up or whatever. I'm sure people tell Joe all the time, "Well, you should have won. I don't know why you didn't win." I'm sure people tell Coach all the time, "Hey, you should have won South Pacific." Maybe people probably don't tell Ozzy you should have won Cook Islands, but maybe they do. You know, things like that. And Charlie gets it the most out of anybody, especially in the new era. Well, either him or Cassidy. But for my money's worth, it should probably be Charlie.
Yeah.
Um, and So I just think he's mortified of making the same mistake again and having a number one ally that doesn't care about voting for him at the end if he chooses to do the same thing that he did with Maria and cut his number one ally before the end. Um, but I mean, like, dude, it's Survivor. You got to trust someone.
100%. And I think the issue, weirdly enough, I actually kind of think Rizzo and Charlie have similar problems, but to a different degree. I think
Okay.
The Rizzo has a similar issue, more specifically, actually, or maybe in some ways opposite, because Rizzo did not have time to, I guess, ruminate on his game. I
Yeah.
think because of like the people that were on his tribe initially, like Nate was the oldest on his tribe at 42.
Hmm.
I'm pretty certain like half of the tribe is over 40. I think that
Yeah.
Rizzo on his original tribe didn't realize, and I think what he said, like, I'm not going to change this because I did this last time and it didn't hurt me. So I think he is weirdly in some ways inflexible.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. The Riz God has no room for change in his heart, for sure. Um, yeah, from my perspective, it's like Rizzo is cooked. You know, it's just a matter of time. I
Right.
think whenever he goes to tribal council, he will be one of the first names brought up. I think regardless of when that is. If he makes the merge, I think he would be an easy consensus target. And consensus targets have kind of been the story of the season so far. So
Agreed.
I think it's just a matter of time, honestly, especially when, you know, Colby and Rizzo have their little like fatherly bromance or whatever. But for the most part, it's just like most people are like, man, Rizzo's lazy. You know, I don't know if Rizzo even has any allies, any close allies, especially not that Q's gone. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I feel
Meanwhile,
like
yeah,
Rizzo could have worked with Q, and like he was going to, but I feel like he didn't put enough effort, I think, into cultivating that relationship. Though honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't if like the specifically Angelina Aubrey and Rizzo were the ones who were just sitting around the shelter, because
sure.
specifically that was not the people in the alliance.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's probably my thought is that's exactly what happened because I mean we saw with Angelina this episode that she was going to be the target. Rizzo was only brought in as a number to vote when Kyle got medevaced. So I think, you know, all that stuff kind of hurt them for sure and hurt Rizzo's game, honestly, even more than it already was. And unlike Camilla, I think Rizzo's game is not benefited at all from Savannah going home. In fact, I think it only might have only hurt his game. So I don't know. It's only a matter of time. Meanwhile, I feel like Charlie is very well integrated, and I think he can afford to be petty about Rizzo's voting habits.
I agree because I mean Charlie obviously has other Colo members there. Rizzo is
Yeah.
literally the only person. So like weirdly enough, that tribe is actually very similar to post swap, post like the first swap of crap. I'm having Kella, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Um,
no, not Kella, Hina, because yeah, it was
right. Yes.
yeah, because it was Soph basically kind of got grandfathered in.
Yes. Yes. And then it was a lot of people who were kind of like it was duos, right? It was a lot of pairs, or was that something else?
Yes, no, you're right. No, there were a lot of pairs.
Yeah. But it is interesting how history kind of repeats itself because we don't see very many swaps in the new era, but here we are. We have a bigger swap than usual because there are so many more people. Um, but at the same time, it comes down to the same thing. It's all a numbers game when it comes to swaps. But at the same time, those numbers can sort of jump ship just based off of vibes and vibe based
Yep,
conversations.
exactly.
Well, all right. I loved the Charlie Rizzo segment was maybe my favorite of the episode, but
Yeah.
there are more people to talk about, unfortunately. So let's
Yep.
move on to the next tribe and let's go to Joe. let's go to Joe. Um, Look,
Oh boy.
Joe's had an interesting couple of episodes. What do we think about Joe?
Um, I, I'm, I feel like he's going to be fine. Kind of personally wish not, but that's just me. Like
Yeah,
I just like it's frustrating. I was hoping he learned like something from his past season. At
sure.
least like you can like be honorable, but like not in such a like oh I think weirdly enough, something that has happened on in the new era recently is
Yeah.
there are like basically players, and Jenna actually kind of is like one,
Mhm.
where they're basically the center, the force of their tribe. They're like basically an unstoppable force.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
say like Rome, and honestly like Jenna and Joe, in terms of like Jenna just like going from guns blazing. And I think it's interesting how like these different extremely strong personalities like playing very specifically. It's
Yeah.
interesting how I think um the returning players on this season have kind of understood like when this is someone who's, well, as Emily said, not about this, but like they're driving like the conversation, and they don't
Mhm.
want it to be they don't want to have them be in like basically complete control because of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the themes of the season, and I think you touched on it very well, especially with Joe, and we kind of just touched on it with Rizzo as well. Is like inflexibility is bad, especially this season. Like I think this is kind of true of new era, or sorry, returnee seasons a lot. Is inflexibility is bad, but on All Stars, Jenna Lewis was inflexible and she made it to the finale. Russell Hantz was inflexible and he arguably almost won. You know,
Right.
a lot of times it works, but I think, like in Winners of War, it didn't work. Boston Rob up to his same stuff didn't work. And I think here the same thing is going to be true, where you look at these men who are being like this, and it's like Rizzo and Joe, they're not going to win. Like Joe could get
Agreed.
par based on immunity wins or being in a strong alliance, but they're not going to win. The people who are going to win are the people who can actually listen. And I feel like Colby is kind of in an in between spot that like Jonathan's listening. You want to
Yeah.
talk about a former challenge beast who's listening? Look at Ozzy.
Yeah,
He's been the
we'll talk about Ozzy later,
yeah.
but
We'll get to him,
Ozzy is
but
like maybe one of my favorite like players of this season.
yeah,
Weirdly
for
enough.
sure. I think Ozzy's been to every tribal council, and I'm pretty sure he didn't want the result of all of them, or maybe he wanted no, he wanted the Jenna one.
He wanted Jenna.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't remember if he wanted Savannah or if he wanted Joe out actually, right? Um,
I don't know honestly. I'm not really sure.
it
That
is it is hard to read Ozzy because he is not very strategically minded. But one thing he's good at is he's good at listening to people, and he's good at making people be like, "All right, I'm good with you for now," because he's been on the bottom the entire game, and Joe has kind of been in a power position all game. And yet, if I had to place my money on who's going home first, I would say Joe. I just think that he he literally, I remember in his pregame interviews, is like, I want to play the exact same game as I did in 48, which
right.
is, you didn't have any changes you'd make. You wouldn't change anything about the way you played, and I feel like that's made itself very apparent that he doesn't want to change anything at all in the sense of he's kind of making the tribe around him, at least last episode, as miserable as they were in 48.
Right. And I think well, and the thing is it's so interesting with Joe on this tribe.
Hmm.
More with Coach than Colby,
Yeah,
because I think Colby is just super sociable, and I think Rick can
sure.
adapt like just generally to most situations. But
Yeah.
Joe with Coach is such an interesting predicament, because I feel obviously like with what Coach was saying during the episode about like honor and integrity, I so appreciated that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I understand technically you didn't like lie. You didn't say that you wouldn't like in episode 1, but like you have in the past like crossed lines. Like I don't.
Yeah. The thing is about Joe, and the thing about Coach, the thing that is less true about Colby, surprisingly enough, is that Coach and Joe are hypocrites. They're hypocrites, and
Right.
Coach is one of the most famous hypocrites in reality TV history. He's just, he thinks he's one thing, and he is the complete opposite, and that's why I love him, and that's why he's my
I
favorite
know. I
Survivor
know.
contestant. Joe's the same way, and that's the reason he lost 48 is because he couldn't own up to how Survivor is naturally a duplicitous game and how it is impossible to play an honorable game. I just Who's the most honorable winner ever? I don't even know. I don't think there's a great answer to that question. I think if you're gonna have an answer, it's gonna be someone like, well, Fabio won a bunch of immunities. Like it's
Right.
not gonna be, it's gonna have an asterisk to it. Um,
I guess Ethan.
Ethan's probably the answer. I actually have Survivor Africa playing on the TV behind me because it's episode 3. Ethan's probably the answer, but also, I mean, like he played a different game basically. It
Right.
was it was a different sort of thing, where people would go on a tailspin like Lex for episodes if you voted even a little incorrectly based off what you were telegraphing,
Right.
um, like T Bird did. So I mean, it's completely different, but that's to say, all of that is to say that Joe's not going to win because he's going to do the same thing, and if he gets the final tribal, he's going to do the same thing where he's going to be like, actually, Rick Devins, I was actually being very honorable, and you were being duplicitous. Regardless of what is true and the he said she said of it all,
Mm-hmm.
that's not how you win Survivor, is pushing back and saying, actually, I was very honorable indeed, and you're the one who's wrong. So, um,
Joe is honestly the new era Russell Hands, which is extremely funny to me. But it feel like it's true.
I feel like it's true too. I mean, just the way that he kind of talks down to people, but in a way that, I don't know. I agree with you. Maybe he needs to find another idol or two, and then I'll really agree with you. But I
Yeah.
understand. I understand what you're cooking up. Um, let's talk about someone who's definitely not Russell Hantz,
Yeah.
because he is in fact a hero, and that would be Colby, who we mentioned before. What do we think about Colby so far?
I am honestly so happy he's back. Especially just I felt like I remember listening to an RHAP. I forget what there was a live event that he was at, and he already
Mhm.
like there sounded like way more into Survivor, and I think that that's continued, and it was so fun,
Yeah.
like as him going on the journey.
I think Savannah and Colby's whole interaction was amazing. He doesn't have a vote right now,
Hmm.
but I don't I don't think he cares. I think the reason he's back on Survivor is because he wants to be in the jungle. I think he'll say, and he says that he wants to win, but I don't think he cares how he wins. I think he
I
just
agree.
wants to be on the island. And I feel like it's a version of Colby we haven't really seen since Australian Outback, which
Agreed.
makes me really happy. Um, but he's wiser now, and he's still got that same Colbster charm. He's the
Yeah,
same guy. So yeah, no, I've really been enjoying his presence on the season, and I mean, he's in a pretty good spot. I mean,
I
like
agree.
he's very good at playing the middle. Um, I'm not even playing the middle. He's good at blending into the background, I think.
Hmm.
He was amazing at that on Heroes versus Villains, so much that he actually did blend into the background and
Yeah.
people forgot about him. Um, but I mean, like in Australian Outback too, I mean, this is a huge guy. And part of the reason he got to the end is because he won a million immunity challenges. But I mean, like, he was there, and he just kept steamrolling through everything. But
Yeah, and he put
nope.
himself in that position. Like it was more like a Savannah winning lots of challenges versus a like Joe winning lots of challenges.
Yes, that's a good point for sure. Um, and even on All Stars, I mean, he was doing pretty well, and then he just kind of got screwed over by a swap
Yeah,
as it happens. So I think Colby's always been a good player, even when he doesn't want to be there. He's a good player. So no, I like his position, and he of course benefits from the old school. Got to keep the tribe strong. collect coconuts type alliance that Joe wants to form. So
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, I like Colby. Let's move on to our next person, who is going to be Genevieve. Genevieve had an interesting episode. What are your thoughts on Genevieve so far?
Um, I well, up until this episode, the start of this episode, I was fine with Genevieve. However, I I'm a little worried.
Tell me why.
So I weirdly think, and it's not even just like with Tiffany, like Genevieve saying things about Aubrey. I think honestly that
Mhm.
that might put her in Joe's firing line. And depending on what
Mm,
Colby doesn't have a vote, so he doesn't have a say. But I feel like he really would go with the numbers if he had to.
yeah,
He wouldn't want like Genevieve to go, but like I think if he wanted to build a stronger alliance, which I think probably with Joe at this point would probably be his best option.
yeah,
Um, I think that is a rough spot for Genevieve. I think if Aubrey was on a different tribe, I think for both of their games it would probably be better.
yeah. I would agree with that. Um, I get your point, and I do think Genevieve, like, she's going to be a threat eventually. I think that I really like the confessional that Genevieve had this episode where she was talking about, hey, if I can talk to you first, I can be the first one to make you comfortable. I thought that was really smart, and I do think Genevieve has this innate like charm and charisma to her that makes people want to trust her, even though she likes betraying her own allies. But you know,
Yeah.
we all have our
Yeah.
fault. But
Yep.
no, I like Genevieve's spot, regardless of the Aubrey of it all. Honestly,
Yeah, I think I just am a little concerned. I think she of anyone can probably get herself out of that situation. I just think that there could be a unfortunate misreading of the room.
yeah. My biggest thought on that is like Genevieve's in trouble if Aubrey knows to play her idol, and she
Mm-hmm.
does know that her name's being thrown out. But if it were purely a game of get numbers on your side, I think Genevieve is far more likely to win out in the battle versus Aubrey. Because
Right.
right now,
Right.
from what we can tell, I think Aubrey really only has Tiffany. Genevieve has plenty of people. She has people who want to work with her. I mean, she's in an alliance with Colby, right?
Right.
That
One
by
hundred
itself
percent.
that by itself should mean that she's in the majority and she's not getting targeted anytime soon. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, look, I'm a fan of Genevieve. I think that she'll go far. I think that she'll probably eventually get taken out for a threat level, especially if she does vote at Aubrey and gets that idol back. Or no. That's not her. She's
Ozzy.
Ozzy. Yeah, my bad. Getting my Billie Eilish's mixed up. The sad thing. But yes, either way, I think Genevieve will eventually be a threat. So yeah,
That actually brings up an interesting point now that we're actually talking about Kalo because they have
sure.
not found theirs yet at
No, they
all.
have not.
So I would not be surprised if I, I feel like Genevieve probably would be in the best position to find it.
Yeah.
But Genevieve could probably, especially, yeah, maybe I don't want to spoil anything for like the end of the episode, but I might need to come back to this later because I have ideas to what could happen, but I am not like confident about it.
No, go ahead. I mean, we can talk about it right now. There's no problem.
I think it's possible that Genevieve gives the idol to Stephanie if she
Interesting.
finds it because if it depends on whether she knows that spoiler alert for the end of the episode Q
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
Um, I think that is like that could set off alarm bells like oh I need to protect Stephanie. Stephanie's in danger. I'm very concerned about this. I don't know that there's if the idol's been found or not, but I might as well look to try and see if I can protect an ally.
Yeah. Look, I mean, in terms of the Billie Eilish of it all, I think so far the decisions on who to send the Billie Eilishness to have been very smart on both sides. I
Agreed.
think Genevieve sending it to Ozzy is is probably the smartest thing you could do because Ozzy will love the fact that he has an idol. He is very likely to get blindsided with one. It has certainly happened in the past.
Hmm.
And he's also very likely to be appreciative of whoever sends him that idol. And also is likely to not know what to do with it and probably needs your help anyway. So I think it's very smart to give it to Ozzy. I think Christian was very smart to give it to Aubrey because I also think she is likely to be blindsided with an idol. And I also think that she'd be super appreciative, as we saw in the episode, of
Yes.
whoever sent her an idol and would want to work with her, with them. So, yeah, I think so far it's been great. And I think adding Steph on top of that would be pretty smart. My only worry for Steph is like, I don't think she's ever had an idol before. I
No,
don't know what she'd do with it. I don't even know how she'd react. Would she be
I
like,
don't know.
"Yes, my game is saved," or would she be like, "I guess I have an idol now"? I feel like that's more likely.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I just think that like given that I feel like it's the most likely because I mean at this point the alliance is Colby, Stephanie, Genevieve, and well that's it because Kyle's gone and Q's gone. So like
And Rizzo, I'm sure, is soon to be gone. So
yeah,
that as well.
well I don't think that I don't know why you would give it to Rizzo.
Well,
Like
yeah,
just
you wouldn't do that.
Rizzo is an unknown quantity at this point. Like I don't.
Even knowing Rizzo's game, Rizzo's like the last person I'd give it
Yeah, no, 100%.
to. I can't. Oh my god! If Rizzo got himself a boomerang idol and did the same stuff he did in 49, but again, which is like I'm playing it tonight, Jeff. I don't know if I would love that or hate that. I think
I,
I would love it, but
yeah, weirdly enough, I would agree with you.
um, yes. So that's Genevieve in a nutshell. Let's move on to our next person, who is going to be Aubrey. I mean, we just kind of talked about Aubrey a decent amount, but I mean, like, Aubrey's game has been way more interesting than I thought it would be at this point in the game. Going into it, what do you think about Aubrey so far?
I I, I do think Aubrey is in a much better place this time.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I think Edge of Extinction was so stacked against her that Aubrey was trying to play the long game when she really should have just played the short game.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think she was trying to keep the stuff because she felt like she could use it at the merge. But at this point, I think she understands the predicament that she finds herself in, and she plays better
hmm,
from the bottom anyway. So I
she does.
honestly that's why I think actually Aubrey's in a better position than Genevieve because of the fact that I feel like Aubrey has shown to be able to get out of tight spot. Even on game changers. Like she didn't have a strategic foothold, but she was able to get out of tight spots. And she has like this built-in ally with Tiffany, who has built-in allies on has allies on other tribes. So if like G, Camilla, Aubrey, and Tiffany
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
link up at the merge,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I don't know. The thing is, and this is my honest truth, and I'm going to be honest because honesty is the best policy.
yep,
I have always kind of underrated Aubrey. I've always, or thought that she's overrated, I guess is the better way to put it. So I'm kind of in the boat where I'm like, I think Aubrey has the makings to get out of this pickle. I just got to see it happen. Like,
mm-hmm,
get her to one tribal council and have her survive, and I'll be like, all right, I've seen it. I'm good. Aubrey's here for the long con. And I know she can. She's been here for the long con twice. So, I mean, that's not really what I'm worried about. It's just a matter of, is it actually going to happen for her? Because I think it took a little while for her to really get her head in the Survivor game. I think for the first few days, she was kind of just like, damn, I'm back? Why did I do
yeah,
this? Which is a very fair question to ask yourself.
yeah.
So yeah, I would still take Genevieve over Aubrey for now for sure. But I think your points are good. I
No,
need to see
I
it.
understand. I understand. I think that's what's so interesting about Survivor, especially like watching it live, is there's so many different ways you could understand like the dynamics of a tribe.
Yeah,
And like
for
one
sure.
person can think, "Oh, this person's obviously going home," versus another is like, "I don't know."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, last episode, I was talking with Ryan, and we were disagreeing on Angelina's spot in the game, and I was saying she's gone next episode, almost was, and he was saying that she was going to be in a very good spot, which she kind of ended up being in a very good spot, looking at the tribe swap. So I mean,
Right.
like, there are two different ways to interpret kind of the same thing, which we did. So I mean, I think that's kind of where we're at with Aubrey, which is somehow we're both going to be right, and I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's the way Survivor goes.
Yep, 100%.
All right, well, let's move on to our next person, who is, of course, Tiffany, who is probably the most invisible person so far in the game. But I mean, we saw that she's very close with Aubrey. So, what do we think about Tiffany so far?
I think we'll see, I think we'll know what Tiffany is doing when Tiffany does something, and that's not just that isn't discrediting Tiffany at all.
Yeah,
I think Tiffany's going to be here for a while. I think it's a very honestly more than D. Tiffany is kind of reading more like Genevieve's edit from 47 to me. Like I
yeah.
feel like we'll know about Tiffany eventually. Like it's coming. It's coming.
I think Tiffany just also naturally she's a very good social player. We saw it in 46, and she kind of even though her tribe kept losing and losing, it never really felt like she was really in danger. Like Q, I think said, "Oh, what if we vote out Tiffany?" Once or twice. But I mean, that's Q. He'll say
She
whatever.
was the center of that trial. She was the center of Yanu. Like
Yes.
Jess wanted to vote out like Kenzie, and I don't know what Banu was doing. Or well, Banu was trying to be like Q was trying to get Banu to vote out Kenzie. No one was going for Tiffany, and I don't. If they lost in 46 again, I think Tiffany's the swing vote.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would assume in that scenario Q would be voted out, but it's really hard to say either way. Tiffany just once kind of like D in a sense, just so naturally likable and so naturally charismatic that you gravitate to her almost. And so I think you're totally right. I think she'll be around for a while. Um, it just we don't I don't really know what that's gonna mean for her game because
Mm-hmm. one hundred
we haven't
percent.
seen anything yet. I know
Yep.
that she's close with Aubrey, but will that matter? I don't know. I don't know. If Aubrey gets voted out, I don't think her game's going to be impacted that much. So we'll see. Um, all right. Well, let's move on to our next person, who is going to be the one, the only, the Benjamin Coach Wade. Um, had a bit of a quieter episode this time around, at least by Coach standards. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. What do we think about Coach?
So the preseason press and the in-season not press are two completely different things.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that coach was understood specifically the issues with his game.
Uh,
I'm now much less confident in that.
here's what I'll say about Coach. I think he's like a parrot. And here's what I mean by that. Coach will say what you want him to say, but I don't think he understands it. I think
Yeah.
he understood the reasons why people said he lost in South Pacific, but I don't think he really understood how that should actually impact his game when he's playing it. I think this is just who Coach is. He's just a hypocrite, and I feel like every time he's played, I feel like in Heroes versus Villains in South Pacific, or played again, I should say, and now Survivor 50, I feel like he's been like, all right, no more honor and integrity. I'm here to play a full game. I'm here to show off who I am. And then like two episodes in, it's like, okay, the old coach is back. You
Yeah.
know, you start with the Tai Chi, and then you go to the quotes, and then eventually you just get honor and integrity right back. So yeah,
Yeah, but it's coach. And
I love it.
and I love coach. So
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I am not complaining. All that being said, I mean, all things considered, I think Coach is in a pretty good spot. I don't see a reason to think that he's gonna go home super soon.
agreed.
Which I love. Um, that's the thing about Coach is because he's so ridiculous. I feel like he's always kind of like, all right, well, he's not the biggest fish we have to fry. We can worry about him later. He's off doing his own thing. He's off doing coach things, talking about painting his toes or whatever coach
Right.
does.
Yeah.
You know, he's he's comic relief for the season, and I think everyone knows that. And in South Pacific, I think it was just, oh, he happened to be leading a cult or whatever, and so he got to use that and get to the end. But I think he just happened to bring Sophie there, who was arguably played a better game than him. So I think
Yeah.
it's kind of just as simple as that for coach. But I mean, he's going to be the same guy regardless of everything and anything going on. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with coach. He'll probably get another cramp, and we'll see what goes on with him after that. But for now,
Yeah.
because he hasn't had to play the game, he's just up to his coach stuff, as
Mhm.
always, including my favorite coach thing of the episode, which was when he decided to try to coach Chrissy, the next person to talk about. Um, what do you think about Chrissy so far? And then what did you think about this moment where Coach was coaching Chrissy?
I think weirdly enough, it kind of reminds me of like Venus and Randon from
Yeah,
like the very limited time on Survivor 46 where like Venus was like I want Randon out. I want Randon out. And then like Randon's like legitimately I think Venus is the best person who I can trust. And weirdly, I think it's a similar thing where I feel like maybe Chrissy was overcorrecting a little bit in
yeah,
terms of like I feel like she's overcorrecting and undercorrecting because like the I like strategy I came to play type thing is always kind of gives me a little red flag because that doesn't always work
sure.
unless you manage to like get so far out in front that you can't be stopped. But I do think that there is that, and I think honestly that I did really appreciate like watching that scene, and I do think that that actually kind of grounded Chrissy back into the game a bit.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Um, I mean, the thing I like in it too is Tyson coaching coach in Heroes versus Villains,
Yeah,
where telling Chrissy not to wear feathers in her hair or to
yeah,
do your tai chi where no one can see it. You know, it wasn't quite to that level, but I'll tell you what, I almost guarantee you, coach was thinking at that moment and was like, "I can be the coach. I can be the Tyson. I can
yeah,
be the apprentice or whatever."
yeah.
Um, but no, I think generally, like, look, I'm kind of low on Chrissy overall. I think that I would be surprised if she makes it super far in the game. It's not impossible, of course, but I'd be surprised. And I think this is a good way for people to start taking her more seriously because she'll, be taking the game more seriously herself. Um, and I think, yeah, from everything we saw, it was very intense conversations when she was talking strategy, like with Coach at the Water in episode 1. And beyond that, it was just a whole lot of momming other contestants. And with
Uh
the
huh.
egos that are on Survivor 50, I don't think anyone wants to be mommed. This isn't
Hmm.
this isn't heroes versus healers versus hustlers. You're not going to find your Ryan Ulrich. So, I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how I feel about Chrissy. But I think the next episode will kind of dictate if what coach's advice actually if it actually means anything for her game.
Hmm. Like I think that if she gets to the merge and like if theoretically like Joe's side wins out, I actually think she's probably in the best position
Yeah,
of that side because I feel like yes, she like obviously wants to play and be strategic, but I think she knows her she know like she understands like she needs to know her role in terms of like if she's in this honor and integrity alliance like I mean, she doesn't have to do that, but like that, I think helps her out. I think that just helps her in terms of the jury, but I think she has to get that far first, and that's where I'm concerned.
yeah, I agree with that in the sense that I think her biggest concern is now. Um, but I kind of think she should be concerned in general. The thing about Chrissy is, especially with heroes versus healers versus hustlers in mind, I just don't trust her to make honest connections with people. I can trust her to make strategic connections, but I think at the end of the day, she could, uh, try to boss around an alliance. But I think it's far more likely that people would be like, Chrissy's controlling the alliance rather than, man, Chrissy's a trusted ally who knows what we should be doing. So I could see Chrissy being a consensus vote like some of the past ones. I could see her being an early merge boot. I could see her being a second swap boot. I could just see her losing. I could see her losing.
I think that's fair. But I think honestly because I think she of the people that are on here that like lost, they were like runners up
Sure.
and has that have that fresh in their minds. I think Chrissy probably I think Chrissy understands the most why she lost and how, but like, and I think really it hit her especially because
Mhm.
of what Coach said, and I think
Yeah.
I think it probably just all clicked in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. I will say the reason why Chrissy lost is probably different than everybody else here in the sense that,
Yes,
she got screwed over.
yeah, 100%.
So,
But in terms of like social
sure.
game personally, I think people liked Ben more, and I think people would have liked Devin more if Devin went to the end instead of Ben. I still think Chrissy would have lost.
I do agree with that as well. But you know, it's interesting for sure. All right, let's move on to our next person, and I believe our last tribe. Yes, our final tribe is the new Batu tribe, I believe.
Yes.
And let's talk about the one person who's by himself, and that would be Mike White, who ends up on the David versus Goliath tribe, but with none of his original tribe members. So, what do we think about Mike White so far?
I am legitimately surprised he's still here. I I think I'm just really surprised that like people aren't like voting him out.
Yeah.
Um I will say precedent does state that this tribe will lose. Not more because like Mike and Angelina on Jabeni, like they lost basically every challenge, most challenges
Yes.
that they
Yes.
were a part of.
Yeah. So I mean, that could definitely happen again. I was really surprised this episode that Mike White basically had no heat on him. Like
Agreed.
he literally came back from the challenge and was like, "I'm voting for you, Stephanie." And then people were like, "All right, well, I guess we should vote out Mike White." And then they very quickly changed plans. So that was something I was
Right.
surprised by. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
I think generally when it comes to Mike White, my thought process has been this throughout the season. It's he, like some other people we've talked about, is someone who blends really, really well into the background. And the question is, I'm not too concerned about, hey, is Mike White going to be able to make it far? It's just a question of, is he going to be so far in the background that he becomes easy to take care of, easy to take out back? Or is he going to be so far in the background that he just kind of makes it far and then doesn't win? A
Uh-huh.
copy of
100%.
David versus Goliath. I
Yeah,
could see it either way, for sure. Because I mean, yeah, he basically had no heat on him this episode. I mean, he had
I
a little, but
know.
it was all self-inflicted, and then it went away like that.
Yeah,
So
is extremely quick, and I think it helps. Weirdly enough, if he was on his own on like a tribe with let's say three like six other people, Suri, Ozzy, well, or I guess not Ozzy, Suri, Devins, um, Coach. Or what, maybe not. Now I'm getting things mixed up. But like, I feel like
yeah,
if it was literally any other like
conglomerate of people.
conglomeration of people, I think he'd be in a very rough spot. I think he would not be looked at as a swing vote. I think he would be looked at as an easy vote. But on this specific tribe, there are multiple ways for him to go.
Yeah,
I
no,
think.
there are. I mean, he's in a great spot. Like that's the thing that surprised me about this episode was the fact that at the end of the day, a David versus Goliath did not go home.
Uh
Like
huh.
Christian was willing to vote for Angelina. I'm sure he would have been willing to vote for Mike White. Like I just feel like that would be the natural thing if you want, the numbers to be disguised. That's a great way to go. I will say the numbers were still pretty disguised because the only vote not on cue was Stephanie. But I mean,
Hmm.
regardless, I was surprised that it took so long to come to the consensus wherever it was. Um, Not to say that I needed Mike White to go home or anything. I'm just surprised that it
Hmm.
wasn't in the cards a little more. But yeah,
Agreed.
well, let's talk about some other people on this tribe, and let's go to our next person, who's going to be the aforementioned Stephanie, who ended up being on the wrong side of the vote this episode. Stephanie, I feel like, has been pretty quiet through these first few episodes, but what do we think so far?
So, getting out of the way that she's the only person that I really don't like. More because of what she's said on like past seasons. She has said some not very nice, like some very ableist
Yes,
language, and like
absolutely.
it's just really frustrating. But
Yeah.
like from a gameplay perspective, I think she's fine. And that's the word I would describe Stephanie's game. Fine.
I would agree with that. I think that she's always been a fine player. I think in Palau, she was fine. She just happened to be on a tribe of people who were worse at Survivor than fine,
Hmm.
for the
Yeah.
most part. Guatemala, I think that she really, 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 really benefited from it being the first captain season and it being at the peak of We Love Stephanie
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
America. And then I think in Heroes versus Villains, we kind of saw what happens when you have a fine player in the midst of good players.
Right.
Or and I think that'll happen in 50 as well. I think this episode we saw the cracks start to form where she's the one person who continues to fight for Q when everybody else kind of knows the ship sails, right?
Yeah.
I think Stephanie, here's my thought on Stephanie. I think the moment that she has like real aversion in the game is the moment she cracks. She had no problems at all through Palau, except for losing every challenge. And
Right.
then when she got to the merge, it was over. She had no chance. Guatemala, she had no problems whatsoever. She coasted through that season basically. And then Heroes versus Villains, she's gone in episode 2.
Yeah, because the aversion kind of just like the
The James of it
personality
all.
clash
Yeah.
with James. Like weirdly enough, I think Stephanie like difficulty with aversion is like the extreme opposite of Aubrey, where Aubrey kind of crumbles when things go fine.
Yes. Yes.
Stephanie crumbles when things crumble.
Yeah. So that's to say, I don't think Stephanie's too long for this world. I would be surprised if she makes a deep run at this point. I think if she does make a deep run, it will be because people ignore her.
Yeah, I think that I do think she could make a deep run. I'm not like certain like about that, but like I feel like there is a world where I feel like you have to have people that are not as big of threats and like just kind of how things are. And I think Stephanie kind of fits in that mold that'll eventually happen. Like if it gets to the merge or something, if she's in like I don't know like final eight or something, it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. I think definitely when the merge hits or another swap hits, if not already, the game's going to be so about threats and taking out storylines that Stephanie, who basically doesn't have the Survivor storyline right now, like she's clearly the most separated from Survivor out of anybody on this cast.
One hundred
I
percent.
I think that she's a fine person to just like bring a string along for the ride and then cut her if you have to. But like, if Stephanie gets to the end, I don't think she wins. I would be surprised. I know that it's
I
episode
agree.
3 and I'm already saying that, but it's like, if I had to make a jury speech against Stephanie, I already know that she lost one of them. And I don't know if she knows how to talk to jurors. So
Right.
I think I'd win. So yeah, not too high on Stephanie, all things considered.
Agreed.
All right, well, let's move on to our next contestant, who's going to be Angelina, who did almost go home this episode. Let's
Hmm.
be clear, but I mean, to this point, until this episode, we had basically seen nothing of her. So, what do we think about Angelina so far?
I'm still concerned.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
there's a definite world um, where Christian, Emily, and Ozzy kind of they're the power center of the tribe at this point,
Hmm.
and I think that if, unfortunately for Angelina, I think she could be like a casualty of some big plan. I don't know what plan, but there's going to be some sort of weird plan. I feel like that'll happen in the future. They always seem to, and I feel like Angelina, weirdly enough, is kind of seems more like a casualty vote at this point.
Yes. Okay. I
For
agree
at
with
some
that.
point, at some point, I don't know when.
I agree with part of that. I definitely agree that Angelina is still in trouble. I think it's for different reasons. I don't think it's for a big move and she's a casualty because of that. I think it's the very opposite. I think we have seen this season with Ozzy, or not Ozzy, but I guess Ozzy, I guess, but Christian especially. He's been all about consensus. We're gonna vote for Jenna if we all agree that we want to get Jenna out. We all agree on Savannah. Okay, we're getting Savannah out. Q was almost that, but I mean, Stephanie,
Yeah,
the jury's out on Stephanie. I think Angelina, if they lose again, is a natural person to be like, she has not done good in challenges. Stephanie would be on board. It would get her back in the loop theoretically. And it would also help mitigate this David versus Goliath thing that could put more of a target on my back. So I
right,
think I think that's the reason Angelina would go home, and frankly, that's what I expected to happen this episode, and why I was kind of surprised when Q ended up going home. Um, but I think that made sense too. But you're not going to have a Q running around anymore doing all that
right,
chaotic stuff. The
right.
closest is going to be Emily Flippen, but they're not getting rid of her, I don't think.
No,
Um,
right.
so yeah, I think Angelina's in trouble because I still haven't seen what she brings for an ally. You know, she gets along well with Emily, but I don't know why. What's the incentive to keep her around for anyone? Is it just that she'd be someone you can beat at the end? I don't know if she's loyal. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Angelina's game. We haven't really seen it, but I don't think that we will at this point. So I don't
I,
know.
I agree with that. I think that the issue that and weirdly enough, like I feel like Angelina, like her David versus Goliath game was so like focused on like her character, like
Sure.
the character edit, that like I couldn't tell you like what qualities of an ally she like is, and I think that could I definitely think that really that part hasn't changed.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the thing that interests me about Angelina is you're totally right. Like I don't know her game. I don't know her game. It's like she was given more than all the other characters on Survivor. She feels like a character.
Yeah,
It's she comes on Survivor and she says, "I'm a different person now. I'm a mom," and it's like, I guess I believe you, but I mean, based on David versus Goliath, I'm surprised you're a person. You know, like it's kindly. I mean,
y-
it's even in this episode, she was like, by the way, you might have seen this little cameo on White Lotus, and then they
yeah,
show her playing the characterized version of herself. You know, it's weird. It's weird, and I don't know. I still have not seen Angelina the Survivor player. I shouldn't say I haven't seen Angelina the person because I definitely have, but I haven't
yeah,
seen her play Survivor yet.
one
It
hundred
felt like in
percent.
David versus Goliath, the edit we were given is that she kind of just fell backwards into being in the final three, even
Mm-hmm.
if that's not true, and she will tell you that's not true. But we didn't see it on television, and so far in Survivor 50, I haven't seen her do anything strategic.
Uh huh.
I
100%.
so I don't know. I just I can't help but feel like she's still at the bottom when I don't have any reason to think otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from there. I definitely am concerned, and I feel like she has like the ability to. It's just whether we'll see that, and I don't know if that's the case.
All right. Well, let's see as we talk about our next contestant, who is of course going to be Ozzy. Ozzy's had a
Oh,
couple
oh my
crazy
gosh.
episodes. What do we think about Ozzy so far?
I love. Oh my gosh, I love Ozzy so much in this season. Like Game Changers was like, oh,
Ozzy's
Ozzy's
here.
here.
Yay.
Yay! Survivor 50. Oh my gosh, Ozzy wants to play the game. This is amazing. Let's go. We all have won. Um, just like it's so interesting. I
Yeah.
think I don't know if he's gonna win, but I think he's gonna have a journey at it in a really interesting way. Just like the journey, I think he's going to. I think he finally understands like the strategy that goes on with Survivor. Like you don't have to be like outwardly strategic to be to like have a lot of have good strategy. And I think Ozzy has always been such a good social player. I think he just needs to capitalize on that. And I think that's what he's actually doing now. He's not being passively social, he's being actively social.
See, I also think I like Ozzy a lot, but I do not agree with like any of that. I think the thing that Ozzy has that he hasn't had before is he understands his own limits. Because in all the confessionals, he's like, I'm not good strategically, so I'll just have Sari take care of it. And then he's still, on the short list to get voted out. So I think the thing that Ozzy is going for him is not necessarily being better strategically. I think it's having more self awareness
Right.
strategically.
It's
Um,
more specific for me. What I was more referring to was like I think that actually is like in the certain terms of like he actively is using his social relationships to like he knows other
yeah,
people and he's getting to know people so he understands their limits as well as his.
that is true. That's a good point. It felt like in Game Changers and probably in Cook Islands to an extent, it was definitely him just like going through the motions of, hey, I'm going to catch fish and I'm going to be safe for a while. And then just not really making the same social bonds everybody else did. I think, Ozzy realizes that, hey, at some point you got to start playing the game and you got to start playing it early because he was basically able to coast through all his seasons so far to the merge just because of who he is, just
Right.
because he does amazing swan dives into the ocean and then whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, like I like Ozzy. I don't care how far he'll go. To me, he's already cemented his Survivor legacy here and made his trip worth it in episode one. So I'm
100%.
I'm fine however far he goes, and he has an idol. I mean, he could do things. He
I
could
I
do a
agree.
crazy blindside. It's possible. Stranger things have happened. I'd be surprised, but it could happen.
I
So
think he
yeah,
could. I think legitimately this season. I think he under. I think he because of what you said. He understands. I think he understands people better.
yeah,
Maybe that's because of his like job now, like running like a diner. Like
yeah,
I think honestly, I think that's only helped him.
yeah. That is true. It does feel like it's a different Ozzy. He's Oswald into another form.
Yep.
He's a different type of guy. So no, yeah, big fan of Ozzy. I hope he goes further, for sure. All right, let's move on to our next person. Christian, Dr. Christian Hubicki, who had an insane episode and is really, in my opinion, kind of been the center of the season so far.
One hundred
Um,
percent.
what do we think about Christian so far?
I love Christian.
Mhm.
Christian sounds sick though. I think he has a cold. Um, I don't like. I was noticing it this episode. I'm like, he doesn't sound like he usually does. Is he okay? Um,
Maybe
just
it's
like
the Survivor microphone quality. I don't know. It's hard
no, I
to
don't
say.
think. I don't think that's what it is. He just sounds like he sounds congested for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah,
But like regarding his game, I think he's in a very good position. I do think he has unlearned relatively how to manage his threat level. The problem is I don't really know how that exactly will transition into the post merge. I don't think
yeah.
he goes pre merge.
No, I don't either. I think it's amazing because if we're being so real, Christian has, lost his tribe the challenge at least twice at this point. But I mean, he's also the type of guy who whizzes through a puzzle so easily.
Right.
So it's really interesting, and I like the kind of ongoing conflict between Ozzy and Christian where they can't get on the same page challenge wise. I like it a lot. Um, all that being said, I mean, Christian has been a great player this season. I would say arguably the best player on the season.
Hmm.
Probably not even arguably, probably just outright. Um, because he just keeps going to tribal and he has no heat on him whatsoever and is basically controlling the vote to an extent. Um, all that being said, I think the thing that I'm most impressed with Christian is that he was able to get out of the Emily fiasco unscathed, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, Now that whole thing is probably going to be a later problem, anyways. You would think, but
Yeah.
I mean, Emily spills the beans about how idols work and the fact that Aubrey has one to everyone, and no one's even no one still no one's like, man, we have to get Christian out. Then they're like, all right, well, I guess we can't trust Christian, and then they're immediately like, well, okay, well, maybe we can trust Christian. So I don't know, I don't know.
I think that really comes down to the fact where I think for both of their games, Christian and Devins and Rick Devins made the correct call in saying that Rick Devins found the idol.
Yes, that
For
is
both
true.
of their games, I think it helped because if giving it to Aubrey, yes, this happened before when Rick Devins was on the edge. Like he
Yeah.
gave Aubrey an extra vote. So like like everything just makes sense and I think it's only helping like their both of their games collectively.
Yeah, I mean, I think about episode one, like to build off of that. Rick is joking that hey, I didn't vote for idols. I would never want an idol, and Aubrey literally says, "I bet there's one under his feet right now." So I mean, it makes sense. I was very impressed that Christian was able to be like, this is good for both our games if you say that you found it. Because you could tell Rick was very hesitant. He was like, I don't know, but I mean, if you think so, then I'll do it. And Christian was like, yes, yes, we should do it. Yes, this is smart. Yes, we should do it. And I mean, he's right, but it's definitely better for Christian's game than it is for Rick's game, in my opinion.
I still don't think it's going to blow back on Rick. The I don't think it will. And that's why I think it really helps Christian because if he gets the merge and Rick's there, I think he the has the ability to connect with so many different allies, and especially with the positioning of like Suri and Rick Devens on that tribe. I think the only tribe he really doesn't have a foothold in is Kahlo.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's really good about Christian is he knows how to establish connections off of very little. He's maybe the best person on the beach in terms of that. It's either him or Sari that can establish connections with basically no crack. Can form the crack like nothing. So yeah, no, I really appreciate Christian's presence on the season so far. He's bringing a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean it feels like he's strategically miles ahead of everyone else so far. Though of course there's time for that to change. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
and then and then sometimes the miles ahead becomes there's a blinking. There's a kick.
Red
There's a
light.
kick.
Yeah.
There's a kick me sign now. It's
That
like
is true. I don't know how Christian will manage his threat level come merge. I have a feeling, regardless, I think the fact he's been to tribal so many times honestly hurts his game because normally it helps people with the more experience you have. But Christian already was a big threat coming into this game. I think all it takes is someone being like, yeah, he was the person leading the charge on all these vote outs of people that you were allies with, for people to be like, for Stephanie to be like, all right, well then we should get out Christian, or maybe not Stephanie, but maybe
some.
Colby or someone. Yeah,
I honestly think Stephanie or Colby would be probably one of the people who would try and get Christian out.
yeah, yeah. I would agree with that, but it's just a matter of time. We'll have to
Yeah.
see. All right. Well, let's talk about, I believe, our second to last person on this list, who is, of course, Emily Flippen, who went from having a pretty quiet game to a very loud game in the span of one episode. Um, what do we think about Emily Flippen so far?
I I am very happy with how her game has gone. I
Yeah.
think that she understands. I think she understands herself a lot better in the sense of like I do think she has learned from both sides of 45. I do think she isn't like, day one immediately like putting information like kind of getting on people's bad sides. But like I do think like day 7, for example, like with telling people, I truly do think she thought that was the best position
Yeah.
for her game. And I think in some ways it made sense at the time. Whether it was actually the best move, don't personally think so. But I think from her perspective, I can very much understand why she did it.
I mean, if we're being honest, like she's in a better position now because she did it.
Yeah, 100%. I think now everyone on that tribe needs her.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. Not everybody on that tribe needs Christian. They'll work with Christian. I don't think Christian has any chance of going home. But I think Emily is someone that everyone needs for their vote to work.
Mm-hmm.
She, on the original Sela tribe, was the person who is in the middle of everything. And now on the new Vatu tribe, it's the same way. She's in the middle of everything. Um, Now, of course, kind of an unforced error or seemingly error kind of made that happen. But I mean, hey, there you go, Emily. I mean,
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. Q's plan needed her to work, and I guess the plan against Q had Emily as a big factor in it too. So I mean, yeah, I guess Emily's playing well. I was ready to come into this podcast being like, man, what is Emily doing? But
yeah, I
I think
know.
you've convinced me. Like she's playing very well.
She is. She is. It's so interesting because like in like her and Christian playing Blood on the Clock Tower. Like it's so interesting because I've played with I don't think I've played with Emily. I've played with Christian like once. I
Mhm.
actually think I'll be meeting Emily at Final 3 Con in April.
Oh, that's
But
cool. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting how their Blood on the Clock Tower styles like kind of are very similar to their Survivor games.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I played with Christian once, and it is true that Christian is very much like he's both he and Emily are kind of manic players in their own way, but
Yes.
Christian is all about, all right, I want the information and I want to, crack the code as to what the best method will be. And Emily kind of plays sort of like what we saw this episode, which is she will kind of go back and forth, flipping like, if you will,
Yes. Uh
but
huh.
always land on the right side of the coin. Always lands on her feet, comma, like a cat, yet again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it works out for both of them. I mean, they're both really good players. So, I don't know. It's just fun to see them interact, and it was
Agreed.
fun to see Christian get so frustrated at Emily over why would you tell that information? It was supposed to be a secret
Yeah.
because like that's just their blood in the clock tower dynamic. That is
Yeah.
exactly what
Yes.
we see when they play online.
100%. It's like, oh boy, here we go again.
No, so I'm really excited. I think Emily is in a very good spot. So it's just a matter of time. One person who is not in a good spot is, of course, the person who did not manage to escape the vote, and that would be the great Q. What do we think about Q this season?
Q. I wish Q was here for longer.
Hmm.
I. It was extremely funny with Q like, Mike, you should vote for me. Trust me, you should vote for me. I'm like, I know that you think this is going to work, but I don't know if you're going to like the outcome.
Yeah, it's so funny because Q is unlike every other Survivor player in this sense. We were talking about, Stephanie will probably fold under, a crack of pressure later on. Q will also fold under a crack of pressure, but the
Yeah.
way he'll do it is he will then, I don't know, try to fill that crack with like Gorilla Glue or something. Like he'll do
Yeah.
something weird with it. He gets goofy when he feels like he has to, even though I mean, it was from everything he knew, it was Stephanie who was on the block, not him. So I don't know. I guess he's just that loyal of an ally. I would love to know his immediate thought process when he went home. I wonder if he thought that he did that to himself, you know, or if that was going to happen regardless. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think honestly, it's unfortunate that Q went out, but I I do think he probably, and in any situation, he probably would have gone out like this.
Yeah, I agree. My comp when the game started was this is going to be like a game changers Tony type of situation where Q is going to go home for doing the same thing that he did in this first season, and people being like, I don't want to deal with that. And I think that's exactly what happened, where Q was in a good spot when he was just playing Survivor, catching crabs, being a good team player. And his name was being thrown out, but the vote was on Angelina, seemingly, based on what the edit tells us, this episode, until Q started doing his, by the way, I have an extra vote actually, haha, stuff. I don't really think that if he had his vote or didn't have his vote, it really would have mattered for this episode, because I think
That
Q probably would have freaked out to try to save Stephanie regardless of if he had the
well,
votes or not.
that doesn't make sense though. Or so not your theory makes sense. It's
Yeah,
specifically the fact that people would believe that Q is an extra vote because I guess Ozzy technically might not say that share that, but because Ozzy doesn't even have it anymore. I think
yeah.
Ozzy, if Q tells if Q says that and Ozzy's aware of that, I'm like, no, he doesn't have an extra vote. That's not what happened.
I
Like
guess that is true. Ozzy could have just debunked it like that
I
easily.
think yeah, I don't. I think that honestly could have happened. I don't. That might not have happened. It probably didn't, but I think that's a very possible option.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I agree with you that it's a bit of a shame that Q goes out this early. I don't mind it. This is kind of what I expected for him. Third voted out. I think Tony
Yeah.
was the third voted out in Game Changers. Like it kind of lines up to me. That means when Q comes back in a few seasons, he'll win. So be prepared for that.
Yep.
But regardless, like he really proved himself as one of the best confessionalists in Survivor history this time around. I mean, he already was
Agreed.
that after 46, but I mean, it was just crazy, and I'm a little sad that we won't have Christmas this year, but I
Yeah.
guess that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, I got two things before we wrap up, maybe three. So number one, I did have a statement I wanted to read from Pambala, who has a theory on the answer. The great Pam, who we know very very well and very dearly.
Uh huh.
Um, her central thesis about last night is that this was a episode all about the ladies because Emily went from being pretty invisible to being the center of the episode, and she was messy, but it got her into a better position. And then Camilla had a very good moment. We saw Camilla sort of take off in this episode in her own regard, and then we still saw the tension between Genevieve and Aubrey sort of continue to balloon. And then Chrissy rebounded after getting the talk to from Coach, and then Angelina finally appeared. So Pam's theory is that this was a good episode for women, and I have to agree in the sense of for the first time in Survivor 50 history, we did not have a woman go home this episode.
You're not
So,
wrong.
um,
I do agree with that today. I would agree with that statement.
so I thought that was pretty fun. Happy Women's History Month or Women's Month. I don't know. I'm not a woman. I'm sorry. Um, I only know so much. But that was one thing. And my next two are back to asking you things. I want to ask you about these tribes. I want to ask you two things. Number one, who do you think is going to win?
um, I honestly still don't know. It's
I don't
just
either.
it's because of how large this cast is that
Yeah.
I legitimately think there could be so many reasons that they could lose. Like I think I think old Sela has probably the best shot at winning.
Yeah, they definitely feel the most integrated into the game, right? Between Suri and Devons and Christian and Emily and
And
Ozzy, I
Ozzy.
guess. Yeah, maybe Joe. Not really Joe.
Nah, no.
But no, I agree with you. I definitely think that they have a lot of upside. Um, like Christian was my winner pick going into the season, and he's definitely proven a lot of that. He's proven so much though, so fast. It's like I'm almost a little hesitant because it's like, he's going a little too crazy. I just worry what's going to happen when the heat is dialed up. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I do think that he definitely can win. I think though, if we're talking other tribes, I weirdly enough, I think Colby is a
Yeah,
Colby and Jonathan are definitely have high potential. Maybe Genevieve or either whoever wins the Genevieve Aubrey war, I think has a good shot.
I like that. I like that take because I was going into this being like Christian is still my winner pick in terms of I picked him at the start of the season, but in terms of how I would do regardless, I was thinking either Genevieve or Camilla. Um, I just think Genevieve's such a naturally good player,
Yeah,
and I think Camilla is also a naturally good player who will not have a target on her. Um, but I'll still go with Christian for now. But I mean, you could really make a case for most of the people on this cast, which I
yeah,
think is a good thing.
except Joe and Coach.
Except Joe, Coach, probably except Rizzo. But I mean,
And sadly Angelina.
and Angelina, maybe Stephanie. But hey,
Yeah,
everybody else is
yeah.
fine. Everybody else is on the
Like
table.
Chrissy could win. I would
Chrissy
not
could
be
win.
surprised.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised about that at all.
I could see it. I'd be surprised about it, but I could see it. Um, and then my next question for you is, who do you think's going home this next episode?
I
We could also do who we think is next out on each tribe. If we
Yeah,
wanted
I
to do
think
that
that's going
too.
to be easier because honestly, it's going to be hard. We know so. The spoilers for the next time on Survivor thing. We know Zach Brown is there.
We do, and he could be voted out. He could be the person
Yeah,
who goes home.
I don't. The thing is, I don't know specifically why they specifically now Zach Brown is there, but I'm curious if it might have something to do with like we're on like episode 4,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of people to get voted out. And
Hmm.
I think there's a possibility that multiple people could go tomorrow, like next week.
Yeah.
Um, I think, I weirdly, unfortunately, I think Angelina's likely. Angelina and Rizzo are pretty likely.
I would agree with that on the Sela and Batu tribes for sure. I think those are the two out. Kala's more interesting.
Hollow isn't interesting, and I kind of want them to go to tribal because I really want to see where the cookie crumbles on that.
To reverse engineer who I would think would go home in this situation, I think Joe would probably be safe. I
Yeah,
think Tiffany would be safe. I think Coach would be safe. I think Colby would say be safe. So I think it'd be between Chrissy, Aubrey, and Genevieve would
yeah,
be my thought. And I don't know
I
where I'd go from
agree.
there. I don't know. I don't know where you would go on
I
who
would
would go
agree
home
with
from
you
those
on
three.
that.
Because I think that I guess I think Chrissy would still go home, but I would be like, well, then why do you show her rebound?
I know. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you would in that case. Um.
I'm gonna go Chrissy because I think Aubrey knows well enough to play her idol now, and I honestly just don't
Yes.
see Genevieve going home. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna say Chrissy, and then we'll see where the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. I think
So
it. I honestly think either Aubrey or Genevieve. I don't know who, but one of them possibly.
all right,
Unfortunately.
well we shall see together.
Yep.
All right, Mitchell. Any other thoughts on the episode or the season before we wrap up?
Well, I think it's very funny that we scheduled this before I knew that there was the blindfold challenge on this episode.
That is
Like,
true.
I
We did
didn't
do
know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect.
that.
So, so who was the caller for Vatu?
The caller for Vatu was Christian. Christian
Oh,
was the caller.
okay. So the thing, so pro tip for anyone going on Survivor,
Mhm.
what you want to do is we learn this thing called bumpers up. Basically, you have one arm sort of in front of you, in front of your head, and the other going the other direction in front of your chest. Basically, you can't protect your balls or like any sensitive organs down there, but like you
Sad.
basically are able to protect yourself and like not have like giant hits
Sure.
like Rizzo did during the challenge. And I think it's so interesting listening to everyone like try and guide people around with just their voice. I think the biggest thing that whenever you're doing a challenge like that, you need to be very specific about where people need to go, but in terms of like the direction they're at. Like
Yes. I
that I
think
think
that's
that's
I
the
think
issue that they
I
had.
I think that's what Christian was trying to do, but I also think it's hard when you're Ozzy and you're trying to hear him say go 180 degrees or whatever, go 90 degrees, you know. I think that's hard to understand, especially when so many it's all yelling. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's a tough situation, but I think that's why they call it a challenge and not an easy.
Yes.
So
No, and I think the really interesting part of that actually is I think the issue, and I wasn't sure if Christian at the time, I didn't realize if Christian was the caller or not, but they kept on
Mhm.
saying your side, and that I think causes issues because some
Yes.
people may misunderstand or try to correct
Yeah, I would
for that,
agree with that.
and I think that that's where a lot of the time, um, the best thing that you can do is, and this is something that is that's taught for orientation and mobility, is
Mhm.
use landmarks. Like
Yeah.
there are lots of built-in landmarks in on those paths. You're supposed to bump into them. Yes, that's really true. But like using those as, and I'm assuming like people can see theoret. I don't actually know how much they see of the challenge before they actually start.
Yeah. I
But
don't know either.
I feel like there's enough to like sort of get a like have the person like understand like have landmarks in their head. This is not like regarding the puzzle. This is specifically regarding the picking up the pieces and
Mhm.
like getting the rings and stuff.
Yeah, I
It,
got you.
yeah, in that case, I think using landmarks is going to just cause a lot less friction and going to speed things up immensely.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I just think that I would love to know and go back through Survivor history to see what the best performance as the caller has been in challenges like this, because I feel like most of the time it's kind of what we saw this episode, where it's like it's hard to corral everybody and make them go perfectly. But I'm sure there's somebody out there who is such a good caller that it would just like instantaneous, like an instant victory, basically.
Right.
Um, that might be an interesting project to do someday.
Yeah,
We'll see.
honestly, that I definitely like to do that because I think that that's something that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. And
Well, maybe that's something for the future.
yeah,
All right. Anything else?
um, holy crap, that Survivor 50 theme,
Yes. Yes, that is
so
true.
good, so
Yes.
good.
Very, very nice. I will be excited to hear it even more going forward. But all
Yeah,
right. Thank you, Mitchell, for joining. This is a fun episode.
thank you so
Um,
much.
I appreciate it, and we will talk to you all later. Bye bye,
Yeah, all
everybody.
right, bye everyone.